Hello, my name is Christine, and I run a vintage shop called Prima Treasures on Etsy. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about copper mugs, and specifically, I wanted to talk about the Cock and Bull Moscow Mule copper mugs. So, I'm being very specific for a reason, because there's been an explosion of copper mugs in the marketplace over the last 5+ years, maybe as much as 10. And there's a lot of new companies who have gotten in on the copper mug action when it comes to the Moscow Mule drink. There's also a lot of misinformation out there, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because the mugs that you see right here on my table are the original Cock and Bull Moscow Mule mugs that were produced by, well, it was a collaboration between the Cock and Bull restaurant in California and a copper factory owned by a friend of the collaborators who made the mugs to go with it. So when they would serve the mugs, or when they would serve the drink, they had the copper mugs made for the restaurant to serve the drink in. So what we have here is 2 copper mugs, and you can see very importantly on them, they have this logo. Let me get it up a little closer so you can get a good look at it. It says Moscow Mule, and it has a mule on the front, and he's kicking his feet in the air, and you can see right here there's little action lines right there. So it's a pretty distinctive graphic, and for the most part I don't know that I've seen anybody attempting to copy the actual graphic. But there's a lot of companies out there. In fact, I was surprised to see some of these newer companies selling newer products claiming that they're the original copper mug, because there is only one original copper mug. And I'm going to post a link to this, or try to post a link to this in the description for this video, but you can actually watch a video that with the owner of Smirnoff, who explains how the drink came to be. And his timeline is that they got together in the early 1940s. He met with the owner of the restaurant, the Cock and Bull restaurant, and they wanted to come up with a drink that they could use to sell vodka. So Smirnoff was always originally a part of the story. So what they did was, the restaurant owner, whose name was Jack Morgan, he had ginger beer that he sold. It's not really a beer, it's a soda, but they called it ginger beer for whatever reason. And they combined that with the Smirnoff vodka, and then they would put a twist of lime, and that was the drink. And luckily, a friend, I'm not sure if it was a friend of the restaurant owner or someone else involved in the collaboration, but they knew a woman named Ozeline Schmidt who had inherited a copper factory. And so they tapped her to create the mugs. And that's kind of what I wanted to go over. If your interest is in getting original Cock and Bull mugs for the Moscow Mule, then I want to show you exactly what you're looking for, because really only the mugs made by her company would be considered original. So I'm going to show you real quick. These mugs, you probably can't tell just by looking at them, but they're pretty heavy. Almost every other mug I see is kind of lightweight and doesn't have a heft to it. So the second you see something like this, I mean, first the kicking mule is going to catch your eye, but then you're going to pick it up and it's going to feel like twice as heavy as a normal metal mug. But really, the key important thing I want you to notice about this mug right here is you can see a stamp on the bottom. It says Cock and Bull product. And that's what you really want to look for to be certain that you're getting an authentic and original Cock and Bull mug. Sometimes it will have a little registration mark R next to it, sometimes it won't. But this is essentially what you would be looking for. And I looked up in the copyright database, and this logo was registered in 1942. So that tracks with the video that I saw with the head of Smirnoff, who talked about, 1940. He said they actually stopped production during World War II, but shortly thereafter they kicked back in and started making them again. So the 40s would be roughly the age for these mugs, maybe 50s, you know, it could have gone on for a while. Now, the interesting thing, and possibly adding to some confusion factor, is that in the 60s, Smirnoff came up with their own, quote, copper mug. But you can see right here the difference that it says Smirnoff Mule on it. This was a promotion in the 1960s, and there are actually advertisements with Woody Allen trying to sell you the Smirnoff Mule drink mugs. I'm not sure. I don't think they specify whether he's trying to sell you vodka or he's trying to sell you cups, but that's okay. Anyway, but you can see there's a difference. They have a different color, and actually these are made of tin, and there's a stamp on there too. Let's see if I can get that in the camera. It basically just says, it has Smirnoff stuff in it. Made in Hong Kong, vodka 80-100 proof, distilled from grain, Smirnoff, Hartford, Connecticut. So, but these are very lightweight. They're basically made from aluminum that has been fired with a coppery color on top. They call it anodizing, where they take basically a color wash and they bake it on there to make the aluminum a more interesting color than, you know, plain metal. So anyway, but you can see here that the styling is very similar. They're almost the same height. They have a similar handle. So it can be easy to get confused with, I mean, this would arguably be a knockoff product of the original mugs from the 40s. But there's also a ton of new, different ones. The main reason I wanted to post this article was to show you some distinctions. So if you're interested in having an actual, original, authentic Moscow Mule mug from when the drink was invented, this is what you would look for. Again, I can't show you heft, but I can tell you that it should feel heavy for its size. And the other thing I wanted to do is just kind of dispel the myth. Like I said, all of these various newer companies who kind of jumped into the game when they saw that the popularity of the drink was going up and try to claim that they're somehow the source of these cups, is that if they're not, unless they're associated with Oseline Schmidt and her copper factory, then it's not authentic. So that's an important distinction if you're somebody who's looking for the real deal. These Moscow Mule mugs, the original ones, they don't come around all that often. There's not a ton of them floating around. So you definitely would want to be discriminating when you're looking to purchase one. And if a buyer or if a seller doesn't show you the mark on the bottom, you should assume it doesn't have that mark. Or you can ask them if they can post a photo for you so that you can verify that it does have the mark. Anyway, I hope this provides some useful information to you, and summer is not too far off and we will be enjoying summer beverages, and I think the Moscow Mule is one of those that definitely picks up steam during the summer months. Thanks for watching.